time and say it in your mind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You guys ready? Okay. Again. Again. Okay, now we're going to add a plastic bottles and take the label off. Whichever one you want. We have tops for all of them. And then we're going to go get sand and then we'll turn them into Moroccans. Okay?
Say hi for the camera.
Hi.
Let's give a round of applause for Jobin.
Hey, Isaac.
I have a set here that I consider my favorites. This book is called Positive Discipline. It was written by Dr. Jane Nelson, mother of 7 children. And this is a woman who wanted to learn how to raise her children without ever hitting them. She wanted to figure out, I have 7 children, how do I raise them without striking them, and using pain-based behavior management to get their attention and to have them be responsible adults. And as a result, she studied Alfred Adler's teachings. And Alfred Adler is all about teaching children through kindness and respect, mutual kindness and respect. And this is something that children should grow up being in touch with and knowing their rights. And if we don't use it, we lose it.
Hello and welcome to America Speaks Blog Talk Radio, where America gets to speak. My name is Paula Flo, your show hostess, and I want to welcome you to our 4th presentation of Jordan Riak for 10 minutes on HR 5005, a series which I'll be hosting to support HR 5005 gaining the media attention it deserves, and support also from concerned members of We the People is a great need for its success. And I'm going to just check. Jordan, are you there?
I'm here and waiting.
All right. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you, Paula?
I'm doing well. And I asked Jordan to come on and be prepared to read from his 16-page booklet entitled Plain Talk About Spanking while answering the questions I have for him. And I have about 5 questions for you today, Jordan. And here's my first one. In your opinion, does striking a child on their buttocks have any sexual connotations at all? And if so, is there information in your booklet, Plain Talk About Spanking, which addresses this possibility?
Paula, I think I've got the answer to your questions.
Okay.
And it's in the booklet on page 5. And let me read these 2 responses.
Please.
Spanking and sexual development. Spanked children learn that their bodies are not their personal property. Spanking teaches them that even their sexual areas are subject to the will of adults. The child who submits to a spanking on Monday is not likely to say no to a molester on Tuesday. It's time spankers realize that no matter what else they think they're accomplishing, they're setting children up to be easy prey for predators.
That's reason enough right there to end corporal punishment in our schools, in my opinion.
Can I give you what the medical science has to say on this subject?
Please do. Please do.
Medical science has long recognized and documented in great detail how being struck on the buttocks can stimulate sexual feelings. Children are especially susceptible. The tragic consequence for many children who have been punished by spanking is that they form a connection between pain, humiliation, and sexual arousal that endures for the rest of their lives. In Slaughter of the Innocents, David Bacon's book, he writes, quote, "The buttocks are the locus for the induction of pain in a child. We are familiar with the argument that it is a safe locus for spanking. However, the anal region is also the major erotic region at precisely the time the child is likely to be beaten there. Thus, it is aptly chosen to achieve the result of deranged sexuality in adulthood." He wrote that in 1971, and he's a recognized expert. My comments on the relationship of pornography and prostitution to this subject is as follows. The pornography and prostitution industries do a thriving business catering to the needs of countless unfortunate individuals whose sexual development has been derailed by childhood spankings. If we put all other considerations aside, there should be reason enough never to spank a child.
Oh, that is very complete, and it's such a sad thing. People who are striking their children often, because of their childhood, believe they are doing what is right. And their mom did it to them, and they feel like, well, I turned out all right. I guess I'm supposed to hit my child. And in more cases than they'll ever know, they are setting their children up for falling into that, like you said, prostitution and pornography industry, and unbeknownst to themselves. But now you're telling us scientifically this has already been proven. So as you closed out, it is enough reason to close this chapter in our schools on beating our children. Would you say that a parent who strikes their child on their buttocks builds, or anyway, just strikes their child, do they build or do they harm the natural level of respect a son or daughter would tend to have for them?
I think that they harm it. I think that the child, the example the parent is giving to the child is that if I do something that hurts you, that makes you fear me and makes you miserable, that I'm benefiting you. That's not a lesson we want to teach our children.
Absolutely. And what message would you say, this is my third question, Jordan, what message you send to let's say a schoolgirl who is aware that her mother allows a male educator to strike her buttocks for deemed misbehaviors?
Well, that mom is setting her daughter up to be a victim. What about a mother who encourages her daughter to submit to the will of an abusive new husband. That's the wrong message. It's not a message that we want to give our innocent children. We don't want to set them up and say, look, your job is to be submissive, to say yes to somebody who's going to abuse you. Dangerous lesson, very dangerous lesson.
And my concern also is the fact that a male teacher is somebody that we want our children to look up to. You want your children to say, this is my teacher, male or female. I look up to you. I respect you. And could you imagine that teacher turning around and spanking that girl with a wooden board or with his hand? Some schools, sometimes that has happened from reports I've received. Just striking them there is saying that, well, this is a real man. He's got his suit on and is successful. He's my educator. He's leading my school or my classroom. That's like saying real men beat little girls. What do you think?
It's certainly the wrong message, and it's a dangerous message. That should be the last thing that a parent would want to convey to a child. Real men behave in a way that they get respect because they've earned respect, not because they've instilled fear. Fear and respect are not the same things.
Exactly.
If I'm walking down the street and I see a broken bottle, and I avoid stepping on the sharp edges of glass, would I say I respect the broken bottle? No, I fear it and I avoided it. Respect is something very different.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And you know what else is just in closure here on this, is that a mom is teaching her daughter also that she's a real girl, or a real good girl, when she submits to being hit by one of these real men. Would you agree with that, Jordan?
Well, the mom should read our booklet. What can I say? That I hope that mom is tuned in, listening to Jordan and Paula.
Oh, yes, indeed.
At this very moment.
Well, I'm going to go on to question number 4. Do schools which use corporal punishment function better than schools which use methods of discipline that are not pain-based?
Oh, let me see. How do I answer? Well, here's something that I said in my booklet that I think addresses this question. The use of corporal punishment in schools has a demoralizing effect on teachers who don't condone the practice. They have difficulty working alongside paddlers. Their survival in such an environment depends on their willingness to remain silent about what they witness. They know that paddlers feel threatened by their very presence. It's not unusual for a paddling school to degenerate to a level where it is nothing more than a magnet and safe haven for incompetent teachers, including some who are dangerously unfit to be left in charge of children. Teachers who favor a power-based management style, including the use of corporal punishment, sometimes rise to positions of authority where they set a bad example for everyone under their control and influence. A teacher recounts this experience when he applied for a position in such a place. The interview began with the director asking me how I felt about corporal punishment. I told him that I disapproved of it, that I couldn't and wouldn't do it. He replied, "Well, since that's the way you feel, you're of no use to us here," and the interview was over.
And those children lost out on a teacher who would have respected their bodies in such a school district.
Yeah, they lost out on a good one, and the school was in search of a bad teacher that would reinforce their bad practices.
How sad. And it happens every single day. I have a friend who actually was fired because he interrupted the principal beating not only a young lady, but a 7-month pregnant young lady. He was fired.
Oh my.
They said he interrupted with school policy discipline, so they fired him. He was a 22-year-old, and his first day there, they handed him a paddle to strike. This was high school, so here's a 22-year-old out of high school who could have had an appetite for spanking girls, but he didn't. And he could have been spanking 18-year-old girls. Just think about that. That's a normal day in Mississippi. And he was fired because he interfered with that. And yes, amazing. Well, we're already just about out of time. These 10 minutes go real quickly. But Jordan, would you do two things? I'd like you to read one more quote from your booklet in the back there. And if you could tell everybody how they may receive a free copy of your booklet in the mail, or if it's available online.
Okay, I'll read the quote from Boris Sidis. He was a doctor and a PhD, a medical doctor and a PhD, and this is from his lecture on the abuse of the fear instinct in early education, published in the Journal of Abnormal Psychology in the year 1919. So make note of that, 1919. None of this that Paula and I are talking about is new. He said, I quote, "As long as the child will be trained not by love but by fear, so long will humanity live not by justice but by force. As long as the child will be ruled by the educator's threat and by the father's rod, so long will mankind be dominated by policeman's club, by fear of jail, and by panic of invasion by armies and navies." Boris Sidis, 1919.
How accurate. And it seems like we're moving more and more into that time period in the way in which things are going on here in the U.S. with the school beatings.
Paula, I welcome an opportunity to disagree with you. I think we're moving away, but not nearly fast enough. We're moving to a better time, and I hope you're wrong. I hope we're not moving into those times.
Oh, you know what?
But I wish it were quicker.
Yes. Let me rephrase that. We are at I'm glad that you brought that up. We're at a point in American history right now where if this bill, H.R. 5005, fails, I believe we will continue to go backward, because it means that at such a time as this, we will continue to choose to harm our children. And we are becoming a more and more corrupt nation under a government that is taking on more perks than, taking on what it would be done with integrity as far as decision-making goes. So you are right also. We're both right. One is, if the bill goes through and we set our children free from this form of abuse in our schools, protected under government, then I believe we're going to soar and we're going to be a restored nation. But I believe if this bill fails, it's going to take us down, because it's just saying we are not moving onward. And if we're going to allow this to happen to our children, it's already happening in our homes. Police are doing a lot of things that weren't happening when you were a little boy, and not even when I was a little girl. So I'm just seeing we're at a turning point right now. And this bill, being successful, I believe, will take it in the direction that you're referring to. And its failure will, I believe, take us in the wrong direction.
You're right, Paula. You know, on this note, there was in the news the day before yesterday, the United States has just banned corporal punishment in all schools of our territories.
Yes.
Schools of our territories. I mean, it's still happening every day in Mississippi and in Tennessee and in Kentucky. But in our territories, it's been banned. Why are the territories able to march ahead while some of our states, 19 of our states, in fact, are stuck in the past?
Exactly. That's exactly what I mean. And Jordan, I know we've gone beyond 10 minutes at this point, and that's really fine. I want to tell our listeners how privileged I am and how privileged I feel to have this opportunity to get this message out with you on this radio show, because I will be pushing it out there and requesting that people share it, because this really will be a turning point in American history for the good or for the bad. And I believe, honestly, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have faith in fellow Americans, members of We the People. I wouldn't be on this radio show with you right now if I didn't believe we could be responsible enough to have it go onward and upward in the right direction, to restore this nation where it will be better than ever. Because once we start treating the next generation properly, then we save the future. The children are the future. We protect the children, we protect the future. And so what you've consented to being on the show with me, it just warms my heart, because I believe this is where it's going to win. And this is where the only place it can win. So I want to thank you for being my guest every week.
And I want to thank you for having me, Paula. You've done a super job.
Well, thank you, Jordan.
And let the readers know they can check your information out on the web or mine, and they can find an address where they can order copies of Plain Talk About Spanking. That's the booklet, the little 16-page booklet. I'll send them free copies if they ask for them. And they get all
Jordan,
the ordering information there.
Very good. Jordan, why don't you do this? Go ahead and give them your email address, and then close out with telling them how they may also read it on your website.
Okay. Now, my email address is Riak, R-I-A-K, that's my surname, R-I-A-K @nospank.net. If they go to nospank.net, which is the website, located high up on the beginning of the website, they'll see links that take them to Plain Talk About Spanking. If I give it now over the telephone, the chances of it being copied wrong or not working are great. But you'll find it on the website on nospank.net, right near the top, and the title of the booklet is Plain Talk About Spanking. And I'm sure that they can get it through you as well, Paula.
Yes, it's on the left.
They're available at no charge. All I need is your postal address, your name and postal address, and I'll send you a couple of booklets in the mail following day at no charge.
Thank you, Jordan, for that service. And you know what? I just want to thank you, Jordan. Will you join me again next week?
I'm here when you want me.
Well, thank you.
I'm ready when you are.
Very much. Right on. Thank you so much, Jordan. And I'd like to thank our listeners out there. Again, share these messages by Jordan. He's been doing this for more than 30 years. He's responsible for legislation that had this horrible practice banned in the state of California. So if you were born anytime after 1986, Jordan Riak is why you were not beaten in your California classroom or principal's office. I'm going to go ahead and close out now. Thank you for joining me here, Jordan, and thank you for my listeners for being here on America Speaks Blog Talk Radio, where America gets to speak. Bye-bye.